The sea is quiet. A light fog moves over the still water of the Kanman Straits. A small wooden boat glides toward the empty shore of Ganryu Island. Inside sits a lone figure, unshaven, calm, his eyes fixed on the horizon. A simple wooden sword rests across his knees. This is Miyamoto Musashi, a ronin whose name already stirs fear and admiration throughout Japan. Waiting for him across the sand is Sasaki Kojiro, the famed master of the Tsubame Gaishi, the swallow's return strike, a technique so swift that legend claims it cuts the air twice. The year is 1612. In moments, the two most gifted swordsmen of their generation will meet in a duel that will echo across centuries. But to understand the man who steps off that boat, the one who carved his own sword from an oar, who arrived deliberately late to unsettle his opponent, who fought not for honor or fame but for understanding, we must begin decades earlier, in a Japan torn apart by war. The age of warring states. In the late 1500s, Japan was not yet a nation, but a battlefield of shifting loyalties and endless conflict. It was the Sengoku Jidai, the age of the country at war. Powerful warlords, the daimyo, struggled for land and survival. Villages were burned, samurai swore allegiance to new masters overnight, and the sword was both law and livelihood. It was in this chaos that Musashi was born in 1584, in the small village of Miyamoto in Harima Province. His childhood name was Benosuke, the son of a low-ranking samurai named Shinmen Munisai, renowned for his mastery of the jita, a weapon used by law enforcers to capture opponents without killing them. Munisai trained his son with ruthless precision. The boy learned early that mercy was a luxury and hesitation a death sentence. But Benosuke's path would not be his father's. Where Munisai saw discipline, the boy saw restriction. Where his father demanded obedience, Benosuke sought freedom. At 13, he found it, through blood. The first duel. A wandering swordsman named Arima Kihei of the Shinto Ryu school came through Miyamoto village. Proud and arrogant, he challenged anyone to face him. The villagers avoided his gaze, except one boy. Benosuke stepped forward. He carried no sword, only a wooden staff. The spectators laughed. Arima sneered and charged. The boy dodged, struck once to the temple, and Arima fell dead. In that moment, the child ceased to exist. The name Miyamoto Musashi was born. The duel was not a crime, but a right. Japan respected skill, even in youth. Yet for Musashi, the victory awakened something deeper than pride. He had glimpsed a truth that would haunt him forever. That mastery lies beyond technique, beyond form, beyond fear. The Battle of Sekigahara. At 16, Musashi left home and wandered. By 20, he found himself drawn into the greatest conflict of his time. The Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, where over 150,000 warriors clashed to decide the future of Japan. Though records are uncertain, many believe Musashi fought for the Western Army, the losing side against Tokugawa Ieyasu, who would soon unify the nation under the Tokugawa shogunate. When the smoke cleared, Musashi walked away, wounded perhaps, but alive. He was now masterless, a ronin, in a land that no longer needed endless warriors. But Musashi was no soldier of politics. He sought something greater, understanding through combat, enlightenment through the edge of a blade. To win any battle, you must fight as if you are already dead. Miyamoto Musashi. In the years that followed, Musashi wandered from province to province, challenging every swordsman who would face him. He slept in fields, trained with monks, studied painting and calligraphy. But above all, he fought. Historians count over 60 duels throughout his life. Some formal, some sudden, all decisive, and in each, he never lost. But his victories were not mere triumphs of technique. They were battles of the mind. Musashi learned to unbalance his opponents before a single strike was thrown. He would arrive hours late, forcing them to stew in anger. He would dress poorly, carrying a chipped sword or wooden stick to appear careless. In truth, every gesture was deliberate, every silence a trap. He called this the way of strategy, or heiho. In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close, and to take a distanced view of close things. Musashi, to him, swordsmanship was not about elegance or beauty. It was about perception, about knowing the opponent's spirit and breaking it before the fight began. In his travels, Musashi studied dozens of martial schools. Shinto Ryu, Yoshioka Ryu, Hozoin spear technique, even staff fighting. Yet he found them all lacking. Their students obsessed over perfect form. Musashi sought truth through practicality. He began developing his own method, a style that used both the katana and wakizashi simultaneously. He called it Niten Ichi Ryu, the two heavens as one. The symbolism was profound. Two swords representing duality, motion and stillness, life and death, heaven and earth, all unified in perfect balance. By 1604, Musashi's reputation reached Kyoto, the heart of the old imperial capital. There, the prestigious Yoshioka family, once instructors to the mighty Ashikaga shoguns, held dominance over swordsmanship in the region. When Musashi arrived, young and unknown, the Yoshioka saw an opportunity to display their skill and a threat to their prestige. The first duel was against Yoshioka Seijuro, the head of the school. Musashi defeated him swiftly, breaking his arm with a wooden sword. The second was against Yoshioka Denshichiro, who sought revenge. Musashi killed him outright. The third was to be against Yoshioka Matashichiro, a boy of 12, backed by dozens of armed retainers lying in ambush. Musashi arrived early, hid among the trees, and struck first, killing the boy and cutting through the ambushers before vanishing into the mist. From that day, the Yoshioka clan's name faded, while Musashi's legend burned brighter. If you know the way broadly, you will see it in everything. Miyamoto Musashi. By his early 30s, Musashi had become both feared and revered, a warrior without master or equal. But his greatest test lay ahead. The duel that would make him a legend not only in Japan, but in the memory of humankind. The year is 1612. A letter arrives from a swordsman named Sasaki Kojiro, the finest blade of the Hosokawa clan. A challenge is issued. The island of Ganryu awaits. From one thing, know 10,000 things. Miyamoto Musashi. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. Miyamoto Musashi. By 1612, Miyamoto Musashi was already a name whispered across Japan. A ronin who had fought more than 60 duels without defeat, a man whose unorthodox methods defied every rule of the sword. But among the samurai elite, one man stood as his equal in fame, Sasaki Kojiro, known as Ganryu, the great style. Kojiro was the opposite of Musashi in every way, elegant, refined, tall and noble in bearing. Where Musashi favored rough clothing and raw instinct, Kojiro pursued beauty and perfection. His sword, the monohoshizao, the drying pole, was unusually long, nearly a nodachi in size. He had perfected a lightning-fast cut called the tsubame gaeshi, modeled after the flight of a swallow. When word reached Musashi that Kojiro had insulted his techniques as crude and animalistic, He accepted the challenge without hesitation. The duel was arranged by the Hosokawa clan to take place on a small sandbar off the coast of Funashima, an island soon to be known as Ganryujima. The path that leads to truth is littered with the corpses of those who turned back. Musashi attributed. At dawn on April 13, 1612, Musashi boarded a small fishing boat provided by the Hosokawa retainers. He was unkempt, his hair wild, his clothes torn from travel. The retainers begged him to prepare properly, to dress in the dignified fashion of a samurai. Musashi merely nodded, took an oar, and began carving it into the shape of a wooden sword. Hours passed as the boat glided toward the island. Kojiro's retainers waited impatiently on the shore. Kojiro himself stood tall and immaculate, the blue of his silk robe reflecting the sea. He believed Musashi's delay was cowardice, but Musashi understood the true battlefield was not sand or sword. It was the mind. He arrived deliberately late, forcing Kojiro's anger to boil. When the boat touched the shore, Musashi stepped onto the sand, the newly carved bakken in hand, longer than Kojiro's famed blade by a few inches. He tied back his hair with a headband of torn cloth and smiled slightly. The primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your intention to cut the enemy, whatever the means. Musashi. The island was silent, except for the tide. Two figures faced one another beneath the gray sky, one ragged, one pristine. Witnesses later said that the air between them seemed to hum with tension. Kojiro drew his sword in a flash, the monohoshizao glinting like silver lightning. He threw away his scabbard. Musashi laughed. "You have just discarded your life," he said. Kojiro rushed forward, executing his signature Tsubame Gaishi. Musashi sidestepped, his wooden blade whistling down from above, catching Kojiro across the skull. The strike split the man's head. Clean, final. Kojiro fell to the sand. Musashi stood still, breathing slowly, eyes calm. It was over in seconds. The witnesses, Hosokawa retainers, boatmen, attendants, were stunned into silence. Musashi bowed to Kojiro's body, then turned and walked back to his boat without another word. He did not take a trophy, nor claim victory. He simply left. When questioned later about his tactics, he said only, "In battle, timing decides all things. To master timing is to master life." That duel on an unnamed sandbar sealed his reputation forever. The island was later renamed Ganryujima, the island of the sword style, in honor of the man who died there. But it was Musashi's philosophy that endured. He had proven that true mastery was not in elegance, but in understanding, in reading the spirit of the opponent before a single blow was struck. Musashi never dueled again. He was only about 30 years old, yet his path as a swordsman had reached its summit. From then on, he turned his focus inward. He traveled the provinces of Japan, refusing wealth and rank, living by painting, carpentry, and study. He trained not only his body, but his mind, exploring Zen, calligraphy, and strategy. His understanding of the sword had transformed into an understanding of existence itself. It may seem difficult at first, but everything is difficult at first. Miyamoto Musashi. Though his fame spread, Musashi sought solitude. He began to realize that the ultimate enemy was not another swordsman, but the self. By this time, Japan had entered a new era, the Tokugawa shogunate, founded by Tokugawa Ieyasu after Sekigahara. For the first time in generations, the land was at peace. The samurai, once warriors of chaos, now served as bureaucrats, guards, and scholars. But Musashi was a relic of the old age. A man born to fight in a time that no longer needed fighting. He wandered through this changing world like a ghost of a forgotten era, carrying not only his swords, but a question that few could answer. If war was gone, what purpose did the warrior serve? Historians have long debated whether the duel with Kojiro occurred exactly as described. Some say Musashi's lateness was intentional psychological warfare. Others suggest it was arrogance. A few even claim Kojiro was ambushed, or that the story was embellished by later generations. But in the end, the details matter less than the meaning. The duel at Ganryu Island became a mirror reflecting two opposing ideals of Japan. Kojiro, the perfection of form. Musashi, the mastery of reality. Fixation is the way to death. Flowing is the way to life. Musashi, the Book of Five Rings, through that philosophy. Musashi transcended the notion of winning or losing. To him, survival itself was proof of understanding. After Ganryu Island, Musashi's legend spread through Japan like wildfire. Songs and plays were written, scrolls illustrated his victories, and students sought him out to learn his methods. He accepted some, but rejected many. His new path was not one of teaching techniques, but of teaching awareness. He often said, "The ultimate aim of martial arts is not having to use them." As the years passed, the image of Musashi the warrior gave way to Musashi the philosopher, a transformation few men could achieve. In the years that followed his final duel, Musashi's sword grew silent, but his mind became sharper than ever. He would wander, paint, write poetry, and carve statues, seeking balance in all things. His journey was no longer about defeating others. It was about conquering himself. From one thing, know 10,000 things. Miyamoto Musashi, The Shadow After Victory. To know 10,000 things, know one well. Miyamoto Musashi. After the duel at Ganryu Island, Musashi vanished from public view. He left behind no school, no disciples, no declarations of victory, only silence. The man who had lived his life at the edge of the sword now sought something no opponent could give him: peace. Japan, under the Tokugawa shogunate, had entered an era of stability. The wars that had consumed generations were over. The samurai, once defined by battle, now served as administrators and poets. For many, it was a time of confusion. But for Musashi, it was revelation. The battlefield had moved from the sand and blood of Ganryu to the quiet spaces of the mind. For the next 2 decades, Musashi wandered from Kyushu to Higo province, refusing rank or service. Daimyo offered him gold and honor. He declined. He slept under temple eaves, trained in mountain shrines, and meditated beside rivers. He carried few possessions: 2 swords, a brush, and his thoughts. Wherever he traveled, stories followed. The undefeated swordsman, the man who fought entire clans and lived. Yet those who met him in this period described not a proud warrior, but a man of strange humility. He spoke softly, moved slowly, and seemed to exist outside of time. In one letter, he wrote, "In the void, there is virtue and no evil. Wisdom has existence, principle has existence, the way has existence, spirit is nothingness." It was clear. Musashi was no longer searching for opponents. He was searching for the way itself, the essence of life through the lens of strategy. Around 1630, fate brought Musashi to Kumamoto, under the patronage of Hosokawa Tadatoshi, Lord of Higo. This was the same clan that had once witnessed his duel with Kojiro 18 years earlier. Tadatoshi, now a cultured daimyo and patron of the arts, recognized in Musashi a mind of rare depth. He invited Musashi to reside in Chiba Castle, not as a retainer, but as a teacher of the way, a strategist, philosopher, and artist. There, Musashi began to accept a few disciples, among them Terao Magonojo and Terao Motomenosuke, who would later preserve his teachings. But Musashi's lessons were not about swordsmanship alone. He instructed them in calligraphy, painting, Zen meditation, and architecture, teaching that true mastery must transcend any single art. The way of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. Miyamoto Musashi. To Musashi, that did not mean seeking death, but accepting impermanence. To live fully, one must be unafraid to die. Only then can every action be performed with complete presence. The man who once shattered skulls with a wooden sword now wielded a brush with equal precision. His ink paintings, spare, fluid, and alive, remain treasures of Japanese art. The most famous Shrike on a Dead Branch captures a small bird balanced on a barren twig, perfectly still, yet ready to strike. It was Musashi's spirit in visual form, calm, patient, deadly in stillness. He also carved wooden Buddhas and statues of guardian deities. Each bore his minimalist touch, unpolished, raw, but profoundly expressive. When asked how a warrior could create art, Musashi replied simply, "The path of the brush and the path of the sword are the same." This was his philosophy of Bunbu Ryodo, the dual way of pen and sword. To him, art was combat without blood, and combat was art with consequence. In his later years, Musashi's thoughts grew more contemplative. He observed nature constantly, the movement of clouds, the flow of water, the play of light on armor. He saw in all things a rhythm, a pattern that could be applied to both war and peace. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. He taught that the essence of strategy was not about defeating others, but about seeing clearly. If one could perceive truth without distortion, then every action, whether drawing a sword, writing a poem, or taking a breath, could be perfect. This philosophy separated him from other swordsmen of his age. While most sought fame through duels or schools, Musashi sought freedom from attachment. He believed that the sword was merely a mirror for the mind. If the mind was still, victory was inevitable. If it was disturbed, defeat was certain, even before the fight began. By 1640, Musashi began to sense his health fading. He moved to a small hermitage inside the caves of Reigandō, the Spirit Rock Cave outside Kumamoto. There, surrounded by stone, pine, and silence, he meditated for hours each day. He had lived by the sword. Now, he prepared to die by the way. In the flickering light of the cave, he began to dictate his final teachings to Terao Magonojo. Go Rin no Sho, the Book of 5 Rings. Each ring or scroll represented an element: earth, water, fire, wind, and void, symbolizing stages of understanding. Earth, the foundation of discipline and grounding. Water, adaptability and flow. Fire, combat, aggression, and timing. Wind, awareness of others' styles and perceptions. Void, enlightenment, the ultimate state beyond technique or thought. In his cave, Musashi wrote, "In the void is virtue and no evil. Wisdom has existence, principle has existence. The way has existence, spirit is nothingness." He was describing the final truth he had sought his entire life. That mastery is not about dominance, but dissolution. To win is to become nothing. To become nothing is to understand everything. The man who became legend. Even in his last days, Musashi continued to paint and practice slow kata, his movements measured, his breath steady. He no longer carried his swords for battle, but as extensions of meditation. Visitors described him as calm, even joyful despite illness. To his disciples, he said, "Do not think dishonestly. The way is in training, He urged them to see life not as a series of victories, but as constant practice, to live with attention and humility. In 1645, at the age of 61, Musashi sat in meditation, holding his sword upright before him, and breathed his last. No grand farewell, no final duel, only silence. The silence of a man who had conquered the one enemy none could escape, himself. After Musashi's death, the Book of Five Rings began its journey across centuries, a guide not just for warriors, but for thinkers, artists, and strategists. From the halls of samurai lords to modern business schools, his words still echo. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. His story does not end in the cave. It begins there, as his teaching spread beyond the age of swords into the modern world. The cave at Reigandō still stands today, carved into the rocky hills outside Kumamoto. Visitors describe an eerie quiet, the kind of silence that feels alive, as if the air still holds the breath of a man who once meditated there. In that stone chamber, Miyamoto Musashi faced his final opponent, the self. He no longer sought victory in combat, but mastery in existence. The weapon before him was no longer steel, but understanding. And from that silence came a voice that would echo across centuries. Go Rin no Sho, the Book of Five Rings. The philosophy of the Five Rings. To master the way of strategy, you must study deeply the other arts and not develop tastes for one thing alone. Miyamoto Musashi. The Book of Five Rings is not merely a manual of combat. It is a mirror held up to the human spirit. Each scroll represents an element of both swordsmanship and life itself. The Earth Scroll, Foundation. Musashi begins with the importance of grounding. Like the earth, a warrior must be stable, disciplined, and aware of his position. To him, this meant not just physical posture, but emotional composure. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. He teaches that ego is the greatest weakness, that the warrior who fights for pride has already lost. Only those who stand upon humility can move with strength. The Water Scroll, Adaptability. Water, he says, takes the shape of its container. In combat, adaptability is life. Rigid styles, fixed ideas. These are death. The mind must flow freely between attack and defense, between certainty and intuition. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. This teaching transcends the sword. It speaks to the artist, the thinker, the strategist, those who face ever-changing worlds and must move like water to survive. The Fire Scroll. Conflict fire is aggression, energy, timing, the moment of engagement. Musashi writes of rhythm, of sensing the pulse of battle. Strike not when you wish, but when the world itself opens. In battle, if you make your opponent flinch, you have already won. His insight reveals the heart of strategy. The key to victory is not speed, but rhythm, the perfect harmony of timing and intent. The Wind Scroll, Perspective. Here, Musashi studies the styles of others. He warns against blind loyalty to one school or teacher. He examines rival techniques not to copy, but to understand. He saw that most swordsmen clung to form, never questioning their own traditions. Musashi believed this was blindness. Perception is strong, and sight weak. In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close. The Wind Scroll teaches humility, the wisdom to learn from all paths, and the courage to walk one's own. The Void Scroll, the ultimate understanding. The final scroll is the most mysterious. It cannot be seen or touched. It is the nothingness beyond all technique. Musashi writes, "By knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist. That is the void." Here, he reveals the essence of his enlightenment. When the mind is free of attachment and the body moves without hesitation, one acts in perfect harmony with the universe. This, he believed, was the true way, where life and death, victory and defeat, all dissolve into a single stillness. As the Book of Five Rings spread through Japan, Musashi's legend evolved from warrior to Kensei, the sword saint. He was no longer just a man who had never lost. He was a man who had transcended the need to win. Artists studied his paintings for signs of his philosophy. Warriors memorized his words before duels. Centuries later, generals, CEOs, and martial artists across the world would still quote his teachings on focus, timing, and perception. His ideas shaped the Japanese martial arts we know today. Kendo, Kenjutsu, Aikido, even modern business strategy, all echo his principles of adaptability and rhythm. Imagine Musashi alive today. He would not be a relic swinging an old sword. He would be a strategist, an artist, perhaps a philosopher teaching mindfulness in chaos. Because Musashi's message is timeless. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. In the modern world of noise, distraction, and ego, his teachings are more relevant than ever. To Musashi, the enemy was never the opponent. It was the self that clings to illusion. He reminds us that to master anything, whether swordsmanship or life, one must master the heart. Centuries after his death, Musashi's presence lingers in Japan's mountains, temples, and culture. His grave lies in Kumamoto, beside his disciples. Tourists still visit Reigandō cave, where they whisper prayers into the same silence that once enveloped him. His wooden sword, carved from an oar before the duel at Ganryu, became a symbol of creativity, of turning simplicity into victory. His paintings hang in Kyoto and Tokyo, admired for their humility and precision. And the Book of Five Rings remains one of the most studied works on strategy ever written, taught not just to warriors, but to thinkers, artists, and leaders around the world. Do not let the body be dragged along by the mind, nor the mind be dragged along by the body. To know the way, you must practice it. Miyamoto Musashi, the sword saint of Japan. Thus ends the life of Miyamoto Musashi, the boy who killed at 13, the ronin who fought 60 duels, the artist who painted peace, the philosopher who dissolved into nothingness. His sword never broke, his spirit never wavered, his truth eternal.